for compounds which do no longer have patent protection. There would be no incentive to develop them because everybody could copy your work once you were successful. So what governments have created is a market exclusivity. They have said, regardless of the compound's patent protection, if it is orphan and it is pediatric, you get 12 years exclusivity, market exclusivity in Europe, and 7.5 years market exclusivity in the United States, which is absolutely important for us because the compound we are developing, Rett, does no longer have patent protection. The second thing is that, let's assume you would have successfully developed a compound to market, but then the question is, what is an appropriate price for reimbursement to be paid by the US payers or the social system in Europe? And if it was something like, let's say, $3 or $4 a day for a patient, like in Parkinson's, it is easy to understand that the development cost of 100 million, 200 million for an orphan indication, you could never recover from such a low reimbursement price. So there is a clear understanding that drugs in the orphan space will be reimbursed at a multiple of those normal prices in large indications. And that is a huge discussion ongoing right now, because some of the companies are selling drugs at prices like $300,000 a patient a year, and we have seen numbers of up to $1 million a patient. And obviously there's a lot of discussion ongoing if that is appropriate, if that is fair, and if that is something that patients can afford. So we don't want to get on that dangerous grounds. So what we are doing, and I mentioned it before, we are the first company ever to run a burden of disease study in Rett syndrome. So we are collecting objective evidence from those 750 additional patients and 250 professional caregivers of what exactly is the impact of that disease on the patients, the families, and the system. What is the cost of an emergency room visit? What is the cost of a day lost at job? And all those things have never been collected. We are doing that. So at the moment that we can show the drug works, we will also have the evidence to say what is the good this drug can do to society. So we want to have an objective basis to discuss an appropriate price, which will need to be above the average price of a Parkinson drug on a daily basis, because otherwise we couldn't afford it. So these instruments and those benefits that have been created to get money into orphan diseases are an absolute must, because otherwise you could not afford to use your shareholders' money to invest in orphan diseases, and even less in pediatric orphan diseases. So it's an absolute requirement to have those benefits in place.